Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into Coffee Break presented by Bath Fitter. D-Mac, Rachel V. hanging out with you for the next 45 minutes, although most of our shows have been going an hour, it seems like. So we're really just here to talk sports. How are you?
Time goes fast. Rachel, you look spectacular.
Thank you.
I love the vibe of Coffee Break. We got rid of James Marilat for today. So, you know.
were a part of the critiquing of James Marilat yesterday on Twitter, and lots of people jumped into that conversation.
I love James. James takes a lot of heat, but he's my
does.
guy for sure. And it's just a day without him. So it's good to be with you and everybody else that's here. And we're in our second day. So how did it go? How did everything go yesterday?
Yesterday was great. We love that you guys all love the new studio, so thank you so much for sharing all of that love in the comment section on social media, etc. Actually, I have a really cool thing to tell you.
All right.
Last night, I'm at the gym, working out, you know.
Braggart.
What can I say?
Yeah.
And I leave my boyfriend, and all of a sudden my boyfriend shoots me a text, and he's like, guess what? I'm like, what? And he's like, some guy just came up to me and goes, yo, bro, is your girlfriend Rachel Vigil? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I watch the show all the time. He's like, I love it. And I was like, heck yes, that's what we want to see. So that was so cool.
So now you know some guy's creeping you at the gym.
100%. Apparently he was standing right next to me and just staring. My boyfriend did notice it before I walked away. I don't pay attention to anyone in the gym.
All right, but there's all these videos now about creepers at gyms.
100%.
Have you seen all the videos about it?
100%. But I very rarely go to the gym without my boyfriend. So.
Okay. Well, what's he gonna do?
He's a bigger dude.
So
there's a punch in.
Is he,
We're
is
also going to the gym in the ranch, so like Highlands Ranch area.
Uh-huh.
It's the bubble of Highlands Ranch,
Okay.
so we'll just stick with that.
All right.
But anyways, good morning to everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We got to talk about Gabriel Landeskog, though, because Chris McFarland spoke to the media yesterday, and honestly, it made me a little bit nervous, D-Mac, that he says there's technically no certainty that Landeskog is going to come back this year.
Yeah, when you watch Gabe's rehab, it's just he's doing it, but it doesn't look incredible.
Yeah.
And it looks slow and you just wonder how much time he's going to need to be ready to play at the highest level he needs to play. Yep. So it's not just about, can you skate all out, but can you condition the right way to contribute? So I heard that. I'm not shocked by it because we've seen how long it's taken Gabe and we've seen what he's been on the ice. The question is, if they don't have Gabe, Rachel, how deeply will they be impacted by that?
And that's my question to you, too, because we've seen a huge difference since he's rejoined the team, which we've obviously talked a lot about here on Coffee Break, of that leadership mentality that he brings. But really, how much, and they've won 6 in a row, so how big of a deal is it if he doesn't actually get back on the ice? Like, is his impact greater because of just his leadership mentality, and he just needs to be in the locker room for them to be able to succeed with him, not taking away anything from his play? But that's just kind of where I'm like, maybe it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. We obviously want to see him back out there, but it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world if he's not.
Well, let's look at last night. So they play Vegas, who's in first place in the Western Conference.
Yep.
They handled them relatively easily.
Yep.
And they win 3-0, but it never felt like it was all that close. Mikko Rantanen got his 40th goal. He's the fastest Avalanche player to 40 goals, besting Joe Sakic in that department by 7 games.
Wow.
They have scored, this is shocking, they have scored on the first shot 3 games in a row. But here's what's stunning about that. It's the 3rd time in program history that they've actually done that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe that they had done it once. Never mind, this is their 3rd time. So, and Bednar After, who's 51 today, happy birthday, Coach. He did say that this is the best they've been playing all year, and it's the healthiest they've been. Mm-hmm. The healthiest they've been without Gabe Landeskog, without Cale Makar, and without Eric Johnson.
Yep.
But they do bring in Jack Johnson, and you could feel it like that. First of all, he's a great guy, and I'm not trying to rip on Andres England, but England, who's 27, just doesn't have sort of the presence of Jack Johnson. Now, you're giving up on the future a little bit to give away England. But what you get in Jack Johnson, Rachel, is another just like core locker room guy.
It is win now for this Avalanche.
Yeah.
And I love that they're buying into it. I hate when they're all like, oh, let's prepare for the future. You have a team who just was able to win, and I know you lost some pieces, but like, let's just try and do it again. I'm all in, buy in now, let's go.
The question is, do they really need Gabriel Landeskog? I think they definitely need him around, and I'm certainly glad he's around the club, which he is.
Yep.
I think they need him on the real question is, do they need him to win the Stanley Cup?
They need him in the locker room for sure, but on the ice, I don't know.
I think it's dangerous just to say they do need him to win the Stanley Cup because I think there's a significant reason why he wouldn't be there. So I don't want to discount or write off the season right now.
Yep.
They're playing too well. Since that terrible loss against Chicago, they're 14-2-2. I talked to Jack Johnson about that last night after the game because he was on Chicago's team.
Yeah.
And he said what a big deal it was for them. And he could tell that things were just a little disjointed with the Avalanche at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they had a players-only meeting and practice got pushed back and it was a little, this, that, the other thing. And you could really say that was a turning point. I think another turning point was the overtime loss to Tampa just a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because they just blew a lead. They blew a 2-0 lead and a 3-2 lead and lost in a shootout. And they just were not the tenacious, tough team that we need them to be.
Yep.
Well, since that time, Rach, they've won 6 in a row. They're the most dangerous team in the NHL right now. They've got 2 games in hand on virtually everybody because they went over and played in Finland. And they have another game at the end of the season nobody has because there was a water main break in Nashville that canceled the game.
Yep.
So they travel all the way to Nashville only to get the game canceled. Well, they're making that game up the last game of the entire year. So the Avalanche will kind of have this, something in their back pocket the rest of the year. I love where they're at, and we've been talking rightfully so about the Nuggets. Well, guess what? The best team right now, at least in the Western Conference, is the Colorado Avalanche. And boy, they get a great test tomorrow night when New Jersey comes to town. As New Jersey's one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Love it.
I'm seeing in the comments, people are saying, okay, so if Gabe doesn't come back, who could even somewhat replace Gabe?
Well, this is where it gets out of my, expertise because now we're going to guys in the NHL, and I'm really not quite sure. I don't think it'll be a name that everybody – the big names were Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Ryan O'Reilly. Yep. I don't think it's going to be any of those guys. But then again, Rachel, just to keep it real, I had never really thought much about Artturi Lehkonen before they got him.
Sure.
And Lehkonen, who they got at the trade deadline last year, has been an unbelievable player for them. So we're going to have to trust – Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic that they know what they're doing. But that being said, man, the Avs are red hot. They're winning games against tough opponents relatively easily.
Yep.
They're playing the best they have all year. Of course, I would love to have Gabriel Landeskog back. But if he can't come back this year, I'm not just going to sit here and say they can't win the Cup. I think there's a path to do so. Namely, because Nathan MacKinnon is freaking amazing. And Mikko Rantanen has been fantastic as well. And a side note, Mikko Rantanen's father was visiting from Finland, so he got to see his son get to 40 goals.
No way.
And did he get in a fight or not? I talked to Mikko after, and he said, no, it does not count as a fight. He just got a roughing penalty. So he goes, still no fights in my career.
Would you say it was a fight?
Well, he said it wasn't a fight.
Well,
so
I'm asking you.
I thought it was a Mikko fight. It's
a little tumble?
Well, we broke it down, and there were just no punches really thrown.
Yeah.
And there were no gloves dropped, but Mikko really doesn't even get into...
Does he not like fighting? Does he never want to be a fighter?
He's never been in a NHL fight ever. And famously, it was Nathan MacKinnon sticking up for Mikko Rantanen last year when he got in a fight with Dumba, and he hurt his hand.
Yeah.
He was sticking up for Mikko. So on another scale, I suppose it's good to see Mikko is a big dude. I don't think Mikko has any problem standing up for himself. He just doesn't really fight. It's not his game. It's probably nice to see Mikko even mixing it up.
Would you be a fighter?
Rachel, clearly, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I was going to say, I feel like I would absolutely be a fighter if I was a hockey player.
Oh, as a hockey player?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a lover. Not a fighter.
All right, you ready for our prop shop of the day?
Yeah, let's go.
The Avs, on the hot streak that they are on, they are 2 plus 225 to make it out of the Western Conference and head to the Stanley Cup final. Are you taking it?
I am not taking that.
Oh,
yeah,
D-Mac doesn't feel good about it.
That's just
plus 225.
So they're back in the Stanley Cup final, huh?
Yep, they win the West.
God, that's a fun bet.
Won 6 games in a row?
I'm not taking it quite yet. Listen, they've got a ton of games in a short period of time. Okay. So they're going to be I need to know what they're doing at the trade deadline before I can go that
Which is
far
Friday.
on it. Which is Friday. So let's talk about this next week.
Okay.
And again, look at the additions they got last year with Manson, Cogliano, Sturm, and Lehkonen, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, these were, so far, here's what they've picked up. They have picked up Jack Johnson, Matt Nieto, and, a depth goaltender. So it just hasn't been earth-shattering. And we're really leaning on JT Compher to be that 2C, although Chris McFarland said yesterday there could be a few guys that rotate around. I think Evan Rodriguez has been okay, but just okay. So you need to, ideally, Rachel, you make a deal. You get Evan Rodriguez on the third line. Gabe comes back and probably skates on the second line, and you bring in that top 6 winger. And I'm ready to roll with JT Compher or rotating guys like that. Mm-hmm. If you can get that done, then okay, let's talk. And you may need one more D too, because I'm not feeling great about Eric Johnson coming back. But they did skate 12 forwards and 6 defensemen for the first time in a minute. I know Bednar wants to do that, and he was able to do it last night, and it worked out great.
All right, well, we'll see. Yeah. So you say they need to add somebody in order for you to feel them throughout the playoffs.
I want to see what they do. I mean, before I just gotta see how it works itself out. Hockey deadline is actually much later in the season than say the basketball deadline or the football deadline. NFL's like midway through the season. I mean, it's really early in the season.
True.
So we just don't even quite know yet. But loads of hockey to come.
Okay, I'm excited about it. Let's go in hot water now, though, as we talk about the Denver Broncos, because as we know, the NFL Combine is going on. Andrew Mason hopefully going to join us here shortly. But we heard from Sean Payton and George Payton. And Sean Payton threw out something that really struck a lot of media members, and it was that the media was what scared away Vic Fangio. Is Sean Payton or Vic Fangio in hot water because of this statement, or do you think that this was just like a, hey, let's kind of just throw it out there? I mean, they essentially said Vance Joseph wasn't their number one choice and Vic Fangio was. So who's in hot water in this situation?
Well, I don't think anybody's necessarily in hot water. Well, all right. I'll put somebody in hot water. And I like the hire, but Vance Joseph clearly is in hot water. I mean, what do we know now? He certainly wasn't the first choice.
Yeah.
So let's go down the pecking order. I mean, who else did they talk to? They talked to Sean Desai. Well, he didn't work out. I mean, they brought in Rex Ryan.
Yep.
Well, he didn't work out. I think they did pick VJ over Matt Patricia, so I'm not worried about him. They flirted with Brian Flores. I mean, if anybody was late to the party, it was VJ.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, it is a kind of a weird blow that you find out like how much Sean Payton did want Vic Fangio. And based on his comments today, I'll just assume it was Vic Fangio that passed on the job, not the other way around. And I don't think Greg Penner or George Payton would have vetoed Vic Fangio. So this is Vic just being like, forget you guys. And it was
nothing
interesting.
To do with you.
Well, I know Vic does pay attention to the media. I know that. He looks like an old curmudgeon, but I know that he's at least aware of things being said. So I thought that was really interesting. VJ's in the hot seat, but I'm not worried about it. I don't think that's actually going to be – I think VJ's going to do great. I am pro the hire. I gave the coaching staff, the entire coaching staff, an A. It is fun to see Sean Payton as to what his style is and who he is.
Yeah.
I think he's an interesting guy. I think George Payton is much more of a morning person than Sean Payton.
Interesting.
And I think Sean Payton likes to control certain things. That being said, I think he's glad to have somebody like George Payton who is going to take care of a lot of the crap that he wouldn't want anything to do with. Nothing to do with. So I think they're going to work out okay, but I think they're two wildly different personalities.
So, and maybe they already know inside the building of Dove Valley and everything, but my immediate reaction when I heard this was I was like, wow, way to tell your defensive coordinator that he's not the number one choice. Which maybe he already knows this.
He knew it, though. Yeah, he knew it.
We get told all the time, D-Mac, and we know there are fibs that are told to the media all the time. And it's kind of our job to dissect it. But it was just interesting that Sean Payton so obviously put that out.
Listen, Rachel, I've never been anybody's number one choice. I mean, for anything.
Your wife's?
Even that was probably, I mean, that was likely a stretch. And the degree that she's still hanging in there after all these years is, credit to her.
love Kim.
But I know what it's like. In my career, seriously, I have been the third, fourth, fifth choice. I know it for all sorts of jobs, and it's something that you keep with you. It's something that you know, and it's something
a little
that
chip on your shoulder.
Oh, it's for me, it's a gargantuan chip on my shoulder.
I like
and
it.
I think VJ is a hardworking guy. I think he's got a lot to prove. I know he's well liked by guys who used to be coached by him. It was interesting to hear that Marcus Dixon and our cornerbacks coach, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. Marcus Dixon, come on, help me. Oh, well.
Davis Webb.
Not Davis Webb. Gosh darn it.
Are you talking Russell Wilson's cornerback?
Yeah, no, he was one of there were two returning defensive coaches. Marcus Dixon was one, and I'm forgetting the cornerback coach off the top of my head. Anyways, they were...
Oh, cornerback coach.
Cornerback coach.
I thought you were saying quarterback coach.
No,
I see.
They were both part of the interview process. I found that interesting today, that came out, that coaches on the defense were part of the process to hire the defensive coordinator.
Yep.
So I think the right people are signing off on VJ. So I'm way higher on VJ than it feels like most people. And I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't think he's going to be the problem at all. The issue is going to be the offense. It's not going to be the defense.
All right. Well, Andrew Mason should be joining us here from Indianapolis. So let's bring him in. Mace, can you hear us?
I can. How are you?
Good. How are you this morning? How is Indianapolis?
It's fine. Same as it always is.
I know you spent a lot of time there, actually. I saw your tweet about like how many hours or days or whatever it is of your life that you've been there. You're pretty much a native now.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking to myself, there has to be like an apartment that I didn't live in as long as I've spent in downtown Indianapolis over the years, which was like 3.5 months of my life here.
Wow.
Mace, are you okay? Are you?
I've got echo in my ear right now. I can hear myself after I say it.
It's always the worst. That is the worst. All right, Mace. Well, let's get that echo out of here. We'll go through this. What was your biggest takeaway from what you heard out of both George Paton and Sean Payton?
I mean, I think you guys were talking about it. It's the fact that Vic Fangio was clearly the first choice, and Vic Fangio clearly said no. Didn't want a part of it. Didn't want to be. Didn't want to go back to Denver. I can't blame him for a couple reasons. Number one, Miami's a good situation. And number two, it's weird to go back in the room where you were once a head coach and now you're only a coordinator. That, I mean, when you've got another job available that's a really good job, I can see why he's had second thoughts and said no. I mean, there were some other interesting things. I mean, I'm going to dive into some of the detail on the rest of the coaching staff at denversports.com. We know George Payton's talking with Draymond Jones. By the way, I thought it was interesting that Sean Payton said he hasn't really done a deep dive on the roster, and yet right now George Payton is talking with Kyle McCarthy, Draymond Jones' agent, to try to get him to a contract. So clearly Sean Payton has done enough of a dive on the roster. As he said, it's like with a snorkel rather than scuba. He's done enough of a dive to decide, I want Draymond Jones on my team.
What would stop that?
What would stop that? Well, it's if you don't want to go past a certain price point, right? If you don't want to go past, say, $17.5 million a year. Of course, if you franchise tagged him, it's nearly $20 million. I get no indication the Broncos are willing to do that. So I think it's a matter of price point. And if there's a line in the sand, and if Draymond Jones stays on the other line, on the other side of that line, then I don't think he's back.
I thought was interesting, and I actually like this philosophy. Although I don't think we should forgive or forget the sins of the past, I don't think, Sean Payton should be defined by it either. How about when Sean Payton said he wants to bring a car, Rachel? I think he was talking about a literal car into like the parking lot and take out all the mirrors. Like there's no side view mirrors, there's no rear view mirror. It's just a car that symbolically says we're moving forward. There's no mirrors on it. I like that, Mace.
Yeah. And I think I thought to myself, I feel like he's talking to us a little bit.
Want to hear our crap. He doesn't want, but nobody does. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett infamously said about the Chiefs, well, I wasn't here. We weren't here, so the losing streak, what does it matter? It's an interesting concept. Do you want to forget about the past, or should the past be a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing? I mean, can you really start over again without recognizing what got you to such a lousy place in the first place?
I mean, those who do not learn from history are destined to repeat it. And I think the thing is, you want to be aware of history, but you don't want to be a prisoner of it. I think Hackett went too far in the other direction of just being completely unaware and saying, okay, it happened before we got here, and it doesn't matter. Well, that's one of those cases where you got to read the room. Yeah, it may not matter to you personally, but it matters to a heck of a lot of people who care about this team. And based on the conversations I had that week, it mattered to the players as well. Even the players that had just gotten to Denver, that losing streak matters. So I think Sean Payton's going to try to kind of walk that line of learning from last year, but not dwelling on it. I think if he's still getting questions about Russell Wilson's office and whatnot in OTAs, then I think he's going to reach a point of being annoyed by it. I think he was saying that almost as if to say, okay, we're kind of cutting this off here. Although that being said, you may have different media down in Phoenix at the owners' meetings at late next month, and he may have to answer a similar question again once he gets to that point.
Mace, how high is Draymond Jones on your priority list to bring back?
I'd say he's job one. And I think right now it was interesting. You heard George Payton talk about Draymond Jones and said that talks were progressing well. He said that he'd love to have Alex Singleton back, but didn't really kind of describe the state of talks with Singleton's representation, and not really much about Dalton Reisner, except that we know that they're targeting the offensive line.
I thought it was conspicuous by his absence that there wasn't really much talk of Reisner. They really did pump up Draymond. Singleton, good for him. He got some nice play right there. And so you can sort of see where and also they talked multiple times about needing more depth at running back.
Right.
And I think we should, Mace, maybe you can talk about it, but I think we should keep our eyes on David Montgomery.
Yeah, because Montgomery kind of falls into that second tier. If you don't want to, I don't think you want to spend 8 figures average annual value on a running back. So to me, that would probably pull you out of the Saquon Barkley conversation. And I think it's wise to not be in that conversation. But if you're talking about Montgomery, someone who might be a better fit here than he was in Chicago, and someone who's got some good pass catching skills, and maybe you can.
Oh no, Andrew Mason, there he goes. All right, hopefully we can get him back in here in just a second. But
the running backs, the running backs coach too, and I'm sorry, his name's escaping me. They just hired him yesterday, but he has previously worked with David Montgomery too. So there's a logical connection there, and yeah, it's when we're talking about like Saquon Barkley, Rach, I mean that is like $12 million a year, something like that.
Yeah.
And even Josh Jacobs is way up there. If you just look below the surface a little bit, our new running back coach worked with Montgomery. Montgomery's on that second tier. They've talked about wanting to add depth at running back. They're not sure about Javonte Williams. It's good to hear that he's jogging a little bit and getting better, but it's an unsettled position at its best. So, hey, at this time of the year, just keep your eyes on David Montgomery.
Who do you like best?
I like Montgomery. To me, there's a lot of very equally talented running backs. It all sort of matters on your offensive line. So I think you can get a excellent production out of somebody if your line is, built the right way. I don't think you have to break the bank. But I wouldn't have any problems if they wanted to spend bigger money on Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs. I mean, I would understand it. And you got to understand, too, the first couple of guys that you get in free agency, Rachel, you almost always overpay for.
Yeah.
It is that first 2 or 3 days of free agency that goes nuts. And then 7 days later, things sort of filter down. And after 7 days, it's like, you're like at the dollar bin. And guys that thought they were going to get big money all of a sudden are looking just for a job. It is wild, free agency, in terms of, you instantly pay too much. You kind of settle in, and then you get a discount.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But every single team picks a couple of guys they pay too much for. And the Broncos, I'm sure this year will be no different. The question is, where do you go with that? It doesn't feel like they're going to go there with Draymond Jones, but let's keep it real. for his position in free agency. Draymond Jones is about as good as you can get this year.
Yeah.
So a good year for Draymond Jones to really cash in. Whether he's really worth that, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're worth as much as somebody will pay you, and Draymond Jones is going to get paid.
Well, we're going to see. Of course, we'll keep you guys up to date at denversports.com and always. But let's move on to the Nuggets because J.J. Redick, he's causing a little bit of...
This is potentially a rant. A lot of the conversation around Nikola Jokic is this idea of eye test and analytics. It's as if to say the analytics that reflect how dominant Jokic are not reflected by the eye test. It's as if to say if you watch another player, it's clear they're more valuable. And my question to people that would say that is, what are you watching? Because when I watch Jokic, I see dominance, someone who makes his teammates better. Think about this for a second. KCP having his most efficient season. Aaron Gordon having his most efficient season. Michael Porter Jr., a beacon of efficiency. Jamal Murray's entire game is benefited by that two-man action with Jokic. Bruce Brown having his most efficient season of his career. Like, what are you watching? Do you understand basketball? I don't know that there's a player in the NBA right now that makes his teammates better more than Jokic. I think that's very fair to say. So when we talk about value in a team sport, I think he's at the top of the list. This is potentially a rant.
This is my immediate reaction to
Go
it.
for it.
This is all stuff we already know here in the Denver media.
Yeah.
100%, we know that he is willing to give away the ball. And that's what people love playing with him and doing that. There is something, and I said it yesterday, when it's about Jokic, you have to understand that you are the star. You have to understand this, and that sometimes you can't give away the ball. We saw that against the Clippers. He gave it to Bruce Brown. I'm like, Jokic, you got to take that shot in that moment. I know you don't want to have the ball. I know you would rather give it away, and that's why people love you. But in some moments, he's got to be the superstar, and he's just got to go for it.
I think with Jokic, he looks at the basketball court as sort of in a geometrical sort of concept. Okay, so he sees, and if you really break down like a two-man game in spacing, you can see where all the puzzle pieces fit.
Yep.
One of the amazing things about Jokic is he does, at all times, take what the defense gives him. That's why his shot efficiency is so unbelievably good. It's why I can't think of the last time he shot under 50% from the field. And most nights it's much higher than that. I mean, the 14 for 15 nights, or the 11 for 13 nights, or even 17 for 23 nights are so common with Jokic. It's ridiculous. So when he makes a decision, Rachel, it's not a decision made of panic or selfishness. There's a reason why he kicked the ball to Bruce Brown, or he throws it to Aaron Gordon, or whatever he does. But there's also reasons why he takes control and takes the ball himself, depending on what the defense gives you. Rachel, if he just wanted to score 40 points every night, he basically could do it. It's just a matter of taking the shots, but that's not the best thing for the team. You would lose a lot of games by doing that. And the one thing about Jokic is he does, like J.J. Redick said, he makes everybody better. To clown on Jokic for any reason, or to not think he's the best player in the NBA, or to be critical of his defense it's bizarrely absurd. And J.J. Redick's spot on with that. Absolutely spot on.
You don't have any critiques of Jokic? I know he's going to be the
Jokic?
back-to-back MVP, but
I have no critiques of Jokic. I'll give you one tiny critique, one very, very small intangible critique. Jokic often demurs at attention. He doesn't when they announce the starting lineup, you realize he's announced first, and he never runs through the little player tunnel.
I know.
He just sort of stands off to the side. He won, I believe, the Western Conference Player of the Month, some sort of award like that. Yeah. And they wanted to have a halftime ceremony. Not halftime, I'm sorry. Center court ceremony before the game.
He said no.
Jokic, he went up there to get it, and before the PA announcer, before Kyle could actually get through his announcement of why Jokic was there, Jokic had already left the court. I mean, he just didn't stand there. And my critique is minuscule. It's tiny. But I would say to Jokic, we want to have that moment for you, but for the fans themselves.
Yeah.
So don't deny I know you're demurring because, you're humble and all that, but just be patient enough to understand that the fans are fully behind you. They've got your back, and it really feels good for the fans to be able to applaud you because it gives confirmation that we are in a serious town with a chance to win a championship. At the end of the day, fans do want to think you love playing here. I don't think Jokic loves playing in Denver. I think he loves being with this organization. I think he loves the people inside of the building.
Yeah.
I think he detests dealing with the media, and I think he really loves horses. Aside from that, and I think he loves his teammates, but I think this is a job to Jokic. This is a tiny, tiny, small thing. But I think if I could advise Jokic, embrace the moment that is happening right now, because these are the best days of your career.
Yeah.
And these are the best days for the fans of the Denver Nuggets, period. And we are about to go on a championship run, which is going to crown that achievement that's been building for these years with Nikola Jokic. We are in the best time ever in Denver Nuggets history. And that is wild to recognize. You're in the best time of anything. We're here right now.
And yet the disrespect just continues to come on ESPN. They had a panel of a hypothetical situation about the Lakers and the Nuggets playing each other, and the panel went with the non-Nuggets team. Take a listen.
Nuggets as the number one seed. So raise your hand if you all believe that the Lakers would get past the Nuggets in a 7-game series.
I'm raising my hand for myself and Perk and RJ.
Right?
I think they got to. I got
to beat them.
What?
Denver does not want to see the Lakers.
I'm like a 50-50 here.
I like Denver too, but that would be a tough series.
Come on, Vince.
I'm going to say yes.
Thank you, Vince.
God, everybody said yes.
The entire clip, because he is literally mind blown by it, just as I am.
I don't know how dumb you can be. I mean, what is that based on? Where are you coming from with this? The Nuggets have the best starting lineup in the NBA. They have the MV3. I don't know if the Lakers are going to make the play-in. That is so bizarrely disrespectful.
Why does the disrespect continue to happen? People are jumping on the Jokic train. We all know that. But why is the disrespect happening everywhere else now?
I don't know. Why were there no other Nuggets players except for Busy Bones, the Clipper, part of any of the NBA festivities? Why was Jokic basically the last person chosen by Giannis and LeBron? I don't get it. I can't wait for the Nuggets just to kick everybody's ass in the playoffs. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. And this Lakers stuff, I mean, get over yourselves. Oh, my God. The Lakers are a bad team. LeBron's out for another couple of weeks now with a foot injury. Rachel, I cannot believe that panel just picked a team that is barely going to make it in the playoffs, if at all, to actually beat the number one seed in the West. I mean, it is bat crazy.
I know
what they just did right there.
I know. I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer here. I'm really not, I swear.
Okay.
If they don't win this year, does this hurt way more than the possibility of the Avs not winning it last year?
Because
I mean, I feel like we are way higher on the Nuggets this year than we were the Avs last year.
The question is this Nuggets team the Avs team of last year, or is it the Avs team of 2 years ago when they lost in the second round to Las Vegas, when they were up 2-0 and got swept the rest of the way? I'd like to think the Nuggets are last year's Avalanche team, meaning they've been scarred up enough. The only hesitation I have is last year they didn't lose with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
They didn't. So do they need, for the sake of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., to lose in order to take that next big step? I certainly hope not. But when the Avalanche lost, Rachel, they lost with their best players to the Golden Knights. And they learned their lesson, and they came back with the vengeance, okay? And it wasn't all smooth. They had to go to 6 games against St. Louis. They had to go to 6 games against Tampa. They swept Nashville. They swept Edmonton. I'd like to think that the Nuggets are on a similar path where they're going to have a relatively easy time winning a championship, relatively, but there'll be a couple of little challenges along the road. That was the story of the Avalanche last year.
But see, and that's what makes me worried when sometimes when you think it's going to be a smooth ride,
but
when things get real bumpy.
Let me tell you something. Bring on the freaking Lakers.
Oh, I want that. Easy.
I want the Lakers now.
100%.
I mean, bring on the Lakers for a 4-game absolute pound-down sweep that the Nuggets would put on. I'm begging for the Lakers to play the Nuggets in the first round.
Me too.
I mean, that would be outstanding.
I'm with you. Who would you rather have, the Nuggets or the Warriors? Or the Lakers or the Warriors?
I'd much rather beat the crap out of the Lakers than take on the Warriors.
All because of the media disrespect, too. That's the only reason.
Oh, I think the Lakers are just not a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're absurd. They're disjointed. They're just weird top to bottom.
Yeah.
Thomas Bryant, who's on the Nuggets, spoke about how much more together and playing for themselves the Nuggets were when the Lakers. Hey, Lakers, one of your own. Thomas Bryant. We actually have somebody on the Nuggets that prefers to be in Denver than LA for basketball reasons. I mean, this is a wild turnabout, and I'm glad Bryant's on the team. Hopefully that works out. But that is a Laker who's happier to be with the Nuggets. That's somebody on the team, not on a stupid TV set.
Jamal Murray is questionable for tonight's
Jamal
game.
shouldn't even be in Houston. They're the world's worst team in any sport. He's questionable. He should be resting at home. You know, you want to talk about a real game. The Nuggets take on Memphis with both teams having rest, both teams not on a back-to-back. That's Friday night at Ball Arena. The Nuggets tonight, you can't lose. You can't lose this road game, okay? But however you win, I mean, who cares? And you certainly can win without Jamal Murray. I could play guard with 4 other Nuggets guys, and as long as they play their game, we're beating the Houston Rockets. Listen, the Rockets have beat Philadelphia. They have beat Milwaukee. They have beat. They got some weird wins in their 13 wins. But for me, Jamal Murray, take the night off, rest up, because we're going to need him on Friday. We're going to need everybody on Friday against Memphis, and I do think that game actually really matters. Friday night's huge. The game tonight against Houston is a waste of time as long as the Nuggets can win by 1 point.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to the game on Friday night as well, but we do bring in Cecil Lammy. Cecil, how are you this morning?
I almost fell asleep responding to ESPN saying that about the Denver Nuggets, but then I thought, wait a second, Todd McShay just said that he would be scared to death to take Bryce Young in the top 10 of the draft. So I was like, oh. And then I thought of the old, I think it's a Hindu saying where like bees don't take the time to explain to flies why honey tastes better than crap. So I'm like, ESPN's going to have bad opinions, whether it's the Nuggets or Bryce Young or whatever.
Cecil, what was your biggest takeaway when it came to the combine and what we heard from both the Paytons today?
Bye, Dalton Reisner. Like, seriously, they're spending so much time talking about Draymond Jones, which makes sense. There's not a skilled player like Draymond Jones available to this team in free agency. You need that guy. You don't have a pass rush. The Broncos' defensive stats were more than fine last year. They're the greatest ever, whatever I have to say. But honestly, they didn't get a lot of sacks. What were they, 23rd, 25th in sacks, whatever the number was? Like, you need people that can generate pressure. That's Draymond Jones. I think we've all known this about Dalton. Like, he's going to test the market. That means he's gone. So if you love Dalton Reisner, as we all should, from Wiggins, Colorado, just know that his days with the Broncos are probably done.
What's your take on David Montgomery?
I've always liked David Montgomery. I've always felt Khalil Herbert with Chicago is better than Montgomery, but you're just 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Montgomery is an incredibly well-rounded running back. He's great in pass protection. He's a fine receiver out of the backfield. He's not a route runner like a Christian McCaffrey, but he also isn't out there dropping passes like, let's say, a Joe Mixon or something like that. So he can do it as a runner between the tackles. He's good in space. He's got a little bit of juice, maybe not as much as some people want. They want an Alvin Kamara, Tajay Spears, everybody. That's your guy you're going to draft this year in the mid rounds, day 3 prospect. So I look at David Montgomery. I go, that would be a quality. It'd be an upgrade from Latavius Murray. We all love Latavius Murray and what he did last year, but an upgrade from him is David Montgomery. And honestly, if Javonte Williams was never the same again, and I don't think he'll be the same again, if he was never the same again and you had David Montgomery as your number 1 running back, that would work, and it would work well.
For the running back situation, it's so interesting because I really did like Latavius Murray's play. Like, I thought he was solid. I thought he did exactly what he needed to do. And Sean Payton obviously likes him because he was familiar with his play too. But for these other guys, the Saquon Barkleys, the Montgomery, I just have a hard time buying into it, Cecil. So, Cecil, I need you to sell me on why they should be able to pay more when there's so many other holes.
Running back is a huge need when you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. I'll sell you on it. They need to run the ball. They need to run the damn ball. Like, they're going to play good defense with VJ. They're probably going to have to create the pass rush through blitz packages unless someone like Baron Browning can take that next step. Because right now, Baron Browning looks like a nice rotation. He looks like Malik Reed, nice rotational guy, not a stud rusher on the edge. Randy Gregory's never going to be healthy. It's another George Payton gaffe. But I'll sell you on it based on this. To win games, you're going to have to run. It's not going to be a Russell Wilson-led offense. It's going to be running the ball, whether that's Kareem Hunt, David Montgomery, Saquon Barkley, drafting whoever. Like, you're going to have to address that running back position. And if you're the Broncos, that's the best way you win. Russell Wilson's best friend will be the guys he's handing the ball off to.
Got dumped by the Falcons.
I like it. I like the idea of a Jameis Winston, a Marcus Mariota, somebody that's not going to necessarily threaten Russell Wilson, but somebody that you can go to if you need to, if the chips are down. And Wilson will get banged up. Another thing we have to realize with Russell Wilson, the way he wants to play is not the way that'll work. He's not a pocket passer. You're not going to play another 10 years, Russ. You're going to have to run. Because as we saw in the last two games, when he runs, when he's old vintage Russ, it looks good, and you can win games that way, and he can be productive that way. It won't last, though. His body can only take so much. He needs to get in better shape. I think those are all true statements, but you have a Mariota, plenty of starting experience. You got a Jameis Winston, starting experience with Sean Payton. I think that just makes sense because you should be anticipating that Russell Wilson might miss a game or two this year.
I think Mariota, too, could possibly be used in a Taysom Hill role as well. I like it. I specifically like Mariota for all the reasons Cecil just said. And I think you can be creative with him, and you can be more creative with him than, say, Jameis Winston because, if Marcus Mariota gets hurt, I mean, who cares? You probably want another quarterback, too. And if you want to bring in, gosh, I don't know, Cease. If you want to, who's a younger, more sort of typical backup quarterback.
Zach Wilson.
Somebody you could sort of, you know who's perfect? This is ironic. You know who would be perfect in that third sort of quarterback role? Davis Webb, the quarterback's coach.
Yep.
Like somebody just like that. If not him specifically, would actually for that role be perfect with Mariota as more of a Taysom Hill sort of combination with Russell Wilson. So I don't know who Davis Webb can find that's like his doppelganger, but maybe that's the room right there.
Yeah, Davis Webb one day was the backup, actually got beat out by Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. It was the reason why he transferred, and he was going to go to CU, and then he bailed on CU, and he went to Cal instead. So, yeah, Davis Webb got that interesting Mahomes connection. Nothing like Mahomes, although he was a Texas Tech quarterback.
Well, the big move is Draymond Jones, though. That's the big move, and it was fun to hear that. They really – Fangio turned them down, as it turns out, I guess. That's our big takeaway, too. VJ was, I don't know, Cease, fourth choice, fifth choice? I mean, where are we going with VJ on this?
Yeah, with the VJ thing, it's like just do the job, okay? It can be great for his career. He can actually be a good defensive coordinator, something that we could argue he's never really been. Early on with Arizona, maybe, but no, with Vance Joseph, it's perfect because you get to take over the best part of the Broncos team. You're going to have to create pressure through your scheme, but if you're good, you might get that head coaching gig that you may want to get back. And if you're the Broncos, I'm old man, get off my lawn with the whole, it's the fifth choice, it's the sixth choice. Just make the right choice. And if that happens to be Vance Joseph and you happen to be looking for another defensive coordinator, it's either going to work or it's not. And that's the great thing about VJ. It's you take over a great unit. If it doesn't work, it's on you. Replace him, go get somebody else.
I can't wait for the press conference, guys, when somebody comes out and says, we got the wrong choice at this particular position. every time somebody's hired, it's the right choice.
We were waiting on this guy, always.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the right choice. I mean, you don't wait for anything. I mean, you just have to make a decision. You hope every choice is the right choice. That's why I laugh when everybody talks about first of all, this is where Cecil and I do bond on this. The concept that the draft is a crapshoot is one of the laziest takes of all time. And the concept of, well, we just want to draft the right player. Every player ever drafted in every single round at the moment he was drafted was the right choice in terms of the thought process by that team. And if that's not the case, then your organization has some serious problems. It doesn't, just because you took your time or you say it was the right choice doesn't automatically make it the right choice. But I'm happy that you feel that way, and every team feels that way.
Right now.
Why the whole right thing is like, listen, you make the best choice that you can under the circumstances that present itself.
Yeah.
They wanted an experienced defensive coordinator, okay? If they wanted somebody for a first-time defensive coordinator, there were lots of choices.
Yeah.
When it came down to an experienced one, I am so happy they took VJ over Rex Ryan and Matt Patricia. So happy about that. In fact, I'm glad they took VJ over grumpy Vic Fangio. I want to be like, standing around Vic Fangio like I want to nail through my eye. I'm happy VJ's here. I like the choice, and I really don't care if it was the 4th or 5th choice. But I'm just here to tell you it was like the 4th or 5th choice.
Well, Rex Ryan, you had to worry about his work ethic. I had so many people with the Bills tell me how refreshing it was that Sean McDermott didn't have banker's hours. And the dude's been making TV money. We all know that TV money's crazy. Like, you want to sit on your ass, make a bunch of money just by being Rex Ryan? Or do you want to actually have to work and have these 2 a.m. meetings that Sean Payton is notorious for calling with his staff? Like, no, if you're Rex Ryan, do you really want to get back to that grind? VJ wants that grind because, again, he wants to be a head coach. So you have a staff with experience, but you also have a staff of coaches that are still trying to strive for something more, which I think is a dangerous circle that certain coaches can get into. It's like, well, this is just who I am. This is all I'm going to be. And they don't really strive for more. Peyton wants to be that first coach to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. Vance Joseph wants to be a head coach again, and that can be to the benefit of the Broncos.
Cecil, I know you have some great pieces out at denversports.com. Break it down. Give me your top choices, I believe, for center, and you have guard out too as well?
Yeah, guard I don't think is out just yet. But D-Mac, you'll remember this name because you and I talked about him plenty. Garrett Bradbury. 2019, D-Mac and I were talking about the draft, and we're like, man, wouldn't it be nice if the Broncos could get a Garrett Bradbury? They didn't get him, and they moved back, of course, and there's your Noah Fant pick, everybody. But they were at 10, they moved to 20. Bradbury goes at 18. D-Mac and I spent plenty of time talking about him. Now, he's available in free agency. The Minnesota Vikings do want to keep him. Here's the problem. They're $20 million over the cap. So the Vikings have a lot of cap gymnastics to do. So if you want to go big at the center position, Garrett Bradbury is that guy. At the guard position, and that one's coming out today at denversports.com, Isaac Seumalo from the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to pluck from the NFC champs. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Oregon State back in 2016. Did not have a single player on that offensive line grade average or below average in a single game this year. So the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line was almost flawless. And if Sean Payton wants to do what he wants to do, because again, Dalton Reisner's going bye-bye. So Seumalo would be a great fit there at left guard. An outstanding player, fits what Sean Payton wants to do. But one thing that we always circle back to, Sean Payton in New Orleans had an exceptional offensive line. If he wants to run spread power, and it's really weird what he does when he wants to, spread power is an odd system. It's 11 personnel, you run power gap out of it. So it's kind of weird, but he was able to do that in New Orleans because he had a great offensive line. You don't have anything near that right now. So if you can address center and guard and eventually right tackle, which I'm writing right now, it'll be out probably tomorrow or the day after at denversports.com. This offensive line needs a complete overhaul for Sean Payton to do what he wants to do with his offense.
All right, Cecil, we'll look forward to reading those at denversports.com. As always, appreciate you hopping on with us.
Peace.
All right, Cecil Lammey, there it is. It's so interesting when we get into the offensive line talk because that's where I'm like, just spend all the money in the world because I don't think the running back will matter if you don't have a good offensive line. And obviously, the quarterback play doesn't matter if you don't have a good offensive line.
Yeah, it's tricky, too, because really, who knows which guy is better than the other guy when it comes to that range. They all look kind of the same. They're all 100%. Sort of the same size. It's all a bunch of, 6'6", 320-pound elephants marching around there. So I don't know. I do remember Bradbury. We did talk about him quite a bit. This is where you need your personnel people to really shine. And I guess we're done with Lloyd Cushenberry, which is disappointing, as he was a draft pick that you expected him to play center for a long time. It is disappointing with Dalton Reisner. I mean, he's a second-round guard. I mean, he was taking the spot.
You really think, though? I know. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off. You really think, though, if he's going to just take the bare minimum, that they don't keep him?
I think Dalton has been insulted.
But if that's your last chance to play in the NFL, because
I mean, hey, listen, these guys are hard to find. Dalton will play in the NFL for years and years and years. It all depends on how much money you're going to make and how much you're willing to bounce around. And I'm sure there's a gargantuan cow chip on Dalton Reisner's shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, he did say he was from Wiggins.
Yeah.
So I think that Dalton has plenty of motivation to play a long time in the NFL. I think he's done with the Broncos. I don't think there's a reason to bring Dalton back unless he's going to be your starter.
Okay.
I mean, he's a starting guard. He's not just a role player. So likely they're just going to move on. Listen, man, in case Dalton didn't get it, and I think he did, when they have the press conference at the Combine and they talk about free agents and they barely whisper your name, it's not a good sign. I mean, that is not a positive. Draymond Jones, obviously they're going after. They're obviously going to go after some sort of running back.
Yep.
And it goes without saying they need a right tackle. They literally don't have one. So, and it looks like they're going to have to go after a left guard as well. Don't forget, you have Garrett Bowles coming back off injury.
Yep.
Javonte Williams coming off injury. And Tim Patrick was spoken about very highly
I'm
today.
so excited for him to come back.
And he's coming back off an injury.
I'm so excited.
And we have Russell Wilson posting Instagram photos of himself in a bathing suit.
Looking a little lean. What can you say?
Listen, I know it was supposed to be a cute photo with child and iguana. I know that was the premise of it. But you don't accidentally post shirtless photos of yourself. I mean, I try to avoid mirrors. The concept of posting something on social media without my shirt on is like preposterous. That ain't happening. So for Russell Wilson to make sure that got posted, he was trying to send a message. And it's a good message. We look good. It was interesting hearing Sean Payton talk about Russell Wilson today. Again, he was talking about how Russell Wilson was wearing out Drew Brees about stuff. Sean Payton also sounded annoyed with Russell Wilson at the Super Bowl because they were having a dinner, and he said Russell Wilson wanted to talk about what they're going to do, and Sean Payton said he wanted to talk to Joe Montana, who was sitting at the table. So I think the message is pretty clear from Sean Payton to Russell Wilson right now. Chill.
Know your role.
Just hey, man,
Bring
chill.
it down a notch.
Bring it down a few notches. Which we
all know that's not Russell Wilson's ammo.
No, but we are seeing some subtle messages or not so subtle messages from Sean Payton. Again, I think this is good. I think Sean Payton is just a little bit of he's Sean. He got a little testy at a media person today that told him, hey, just 2 more questions.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'll answer as many questions as I want. The reason why that media person said that wasn't to be rude. It was because George Payton was sitting right there to be next on the podium. So Sean Payton didn't sort of recognize what was going on there, sort of told the media person to, stand back, did recognize George was there, but he didn't just take 2 more questions. He actually took his time and made George wait a little bit.
Who's in charge?
It depends on what it is. I don't think Sean Payton wants anything to do with all the scouting crap of the minutia.
Yep.
And there's a lot of minutia scouting crap that has to happen. I think Sean Payton wants to work on the big things. I think he wants a lot of autonomy on the defense. And I think he really wants to narrow in on the things that he does well, which I am fine with, because the things that Sean Payton does well are the things that need the most attention.
Yeah.
And part of it is telling Russell Wilson, dude, chill out, man. And we're all glad you're in better shape. I get it. Cute kid, cute iguana. The photo really was Russ Wilson with his shirt off. That was the real photo. And Russell Wilson posted it.
What was the caption? Jake, can you look up the caption, or do you know the caption?
I don't. It was on Instagram. I just saw the photo.
Okay. I'm curious.
I think it was probably like, having fun in the sun, look at the iguana. Parentheses, I've been working out and staying on my diet. Check it out right now. I mean, that's essentially what I think is going on.
Okay.
I mean, people don't randomly post shirtless photos of themselves on social media. Nobody does that, Rachel. Literally nobody.
All right, well, it's a proverb.
A proverb.
A proverb
All
about children.
It's about a kid.
Yes.
Yes. It's about a kid. I told you it was a cute quote about a kid and an iguana.
Yep.
But it really was, look at me with my shirt off. And he looks good. I'm giving him props here. I'm giving him props, but don't get it fooled. Everything happens for a reason. Sean Payton tells Russell Wilson to chill out for a reason at the combine. Russell Wilson posts a picture of him shirtless for a reason. All these things are positives, though.
Mm-hmm.
These are not. I'm telling you what's going on, but I'm not telling you it's a negative. In fact, it looks like a positive. I like what's going on. I like the tone. I don't think George Payton and Sean Payton have anything in common. They can't even spell their last name the same way. But it doesn't mean they won't work well together as long as they can define each other's roles. And if it all sucks and it goes down the tubes, then okay, they'll blow out George Payton and they'll figure out something new with Russell Wilson. Bring in Marcus Mariota. Figure out a Davis Webb sort of like guy.
Mm-hmm.
Big, tall, sort of standard quarterback that's not going to give anybody any problems, but could be all right if Russ got hurt. And he did miss 2 games last year. He did miss 2.
Yep.
He only played in 15 out of 17 games. Rachel, I like the direction things are going because things are just a little... I like it. I like that there's a little edge to Sean Payton, and we're seeing examples of it. I do think he's a do as I say, not as I do sort of guy, and I'm okay with that. You don't really want to know how the sausage is made in the NFL because it might make you puke, but you need that guy. Like in, you need me up on that wall. What's that movie? Give me that Tom Cruise movie. Come on. With
Not
Jack
a movie,
Nicholson.
people. Everybody here on Coffee Break knows it.
You
the
need
comments
me.
made you out. You can think on that, though, because today's actually an exciting day, and I have a surprise for everybody.
Okay.
I'm going to go get the surprise. I'll be right back.
I can't believe I can't remember the name of that movie. A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men. I was going to say everybody loves a DMAC monologue, so here we go, DMAC.
All right.
Give it to us.
I want to talk to you about a serious problem in America. That is mites in your lawn. Mites are small. They may look insignificant, but trust me, they are a hazard. Turn down mites, spray them, murder the mites, and everybody will be better. This is DMAC. I am anti-mite. All right, what's this?
We've got donuts because today is Coffee Break's first birthday.
What?
1 year ago
Come
today,
on.
we had the very first episode of Coffee Break.
Is that right? Really?
It is. It has been 1 year. I'm so thankful for everybody.
Wow.
I'm thankful for you to be sitting here every single day with me. I'm thankful to Jake for producing a wonderful show. Literally everybody that's a part of this, I am so thankful. But yeah, exactly 1 year ago, February 28th was our first episode.
I can't open it. I am an idiot. Well, the box is here. Go ahead. I got it. I figured it out.
That was hilarious.
Wow.
I am so lucky for each and every one of you guys that tune in every single day. 1 year, I seriously remember our first episode. We had one viewer. It was probably one of my parents tuning in, and I can't thank
One of your
everybody
parents.
enough.
So wait.
The other one was at work.
Wait, so only one of your parents was proud of you.
Only one could tune in. We're at 10:30.
All right, what does everybody think? You think it was mom or dad? Who do you think? Only one of her parents.
If you follow on Twitter, you would absolutely know the answer to this question. Besides the point. But anyways, I'm so thankful for every single one of you. I'm thankful, like I said, for DMAC. Thank you guys so much for making Coffee Break continue to grow and grow and grow in 1 year. And now we get donuts.
Take a bite, Rach.
I love Krispy Kreme donuts.
Pick it
Also,
out.
Krispy Kreme, you need to tune down your prices a little bit. These are just donuts, all right? Half of it's air and sugar. Cheers, everybody. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see you guys back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
There you go. Peace. Don't drink my coffee.